Hi, I am Dr. Nishant Kathade. I am a urologist, and today we are going to discuss a very common and a very important topic of benign prostatic enlargement or BPH. It's also called as benign prostatic hypertrophy. So what is a prostate gland? Why does it enlarge in size? How does it affect the urinary system? When do you seek medical attention? How do you prevent it? How do you treat it? What are the complications of it? What is the treatment of those complications? All these things we are going to discuss today. So the first question that comes to everybody's mind is, what is a prostate gland? Prostate gland is a walnut-shaped gland which is present in your urinary tract just below the urinary bladder. As the urine passes through the urethra in a male person, there is a gland called as the prostate gland. This gland has a function for sexual purposes only. Gradually over the years, as the age of the person increases, the gland increases in size and it may grow inside the urinary pathway, which is called as the urethra, and that causes obstruction. Now, prostate gland and its symptoms do not happen overnight. They develop very gradually and symptoms start presenting themselves at around 40 years or above age. So, what are the symptoms that a person with an enlarged prostate will have? First of all, the most common symptoms are like frequency. He has to go to urine quite frequently, half hourly, 1 hourly, 2 hourly. There is urgency. That means if he has to urinate, then he has to rush to the bathroom. Then there is urge incontinence. If he is not able to reach his bathroom on time, then there may be a little bit of urine leak on his clothes. Nocturia. For example, the patient has to get up twice or more than that times at night to go and pass urine. So these are like storage symptoms. Then there will be like obstructive symptoms as well. For example, the patient will have a poor flow of urine, poor stream of urine. He may have to strain while passing urine. The urine stream will be weak and it will be interrupted repeatedly. These are some of the most common symptoms that a person with enlarged prostate initially has. Now, as this disease progresses and patient does not seek adequate treatment, there may be other adverse things that may happen due to this enlarged prostate. Since the prostate gland is enlarged and there is high pressure in the bladder has to force urine downstreams. This causes a lot of changes in the bladder. The bladder becomes thick-walled, it becomes tuberculated. There may be circulations in the bladder that may happen. This pressure may ultimately transmit to the kidneys and may affect the kidneys also. There may be stones formation within the bladder. There may be bleeding that may happen within the bladder. And this chronic disease, if it keeps on continuing, then the bladder dysfunction does not go away easily. The bladder may start failing also. These are some of the symptoms that may happen with this prostate gland. What all complications that can happen, I can again go back to them. The patient may end up in acute retention of urine. He is not able to pass urine. The bladder is absolutely full and he comes to the casualty and presents himself as having a completely full bladder, unable to pass urine. There may be bleeding. There may be chronic or long-standing retention related complications like I mentioned earlier. There may be stones in the kidney, in the urine, in the bladder, and this may also cause symptoms. So when are we to seek medical care? Whenever there is any of these symptoms are present, it is always better to seek early medical advice so that the prostate is treated early and you do not develop any complications. Other complications which are commonly seen in prostate are due to infection. Patient has got recurrent urinary tract infection, he develops that. Prostatitis, inflammation and infection of the prostate, which causes a lot of pain while passing urine. He may develop prostatic abscesses, which are also very difficult to treat. So before he develops complications, it's always better to seek early intervention. So how do we diagnose that all these symptoms are due to prostate enlargement? What investigations we have to do when a patient presents with such complaints? That is what we are going to discuss now. First is personal and family medical history. Second is physical examination, and third is the patient will be undergoing medical tests. What symptoms are present, when the symptoms began and how often they occur, whether he has a history of recurrent urinary tract infection, what medications is he taking which may aggravate these symptoms, how much liquid typically this person is drinking, whether he is having diabetes or any other comorbidities, whether he is consuming stimulants like coffee or alcohol, and his general medical history is taken. Physical examination, the patient's entire body is examined. Patients may develop hernias if they having long-standing prostatic obstruction and the patient is passing urine with a lot of abdominal pressure. And then there is digital rectal examination where the prostate gland is palpated to see if there are any nodules on the prostate, hard nodules on the prostate, which may be due to a prostatic cancer, or if there is any abscess. All those things are we come to know on digital rectal examination. Also, the anal tone of the patient can be known, which will guide us and let us know whether there is any autonomic dysfunction of the urinary bladder. So a lot of medical tests may be required in such patients, like complete blood count, urine analysis, renal function tests. If required, your doctor may prescribe you to undergo a uroflowmetry to check the flow of urine. If suppose he has doubts whether there is concomitant autonomic dysfunction or too much overactivity of the bladder, which may have developed due to the enlarged prostate, then he may advise you urodynamic study testing. Then if suppose there is a suspicion that there is a prostatic cancer also, then he may advise you to undergo serum PSA levels, transrectal ultrasound and a biopsy. Serum PSA is also done as screening test in elderly patients, and it may be advised even for those reasons. So briefly, how is the benign prostatic hyperplasia treated? So there are I will divide it into 4 basic categories. One is called as lifestyle changes, second is medications, third is minimally invasive procedures, and lastly is the surgery. Once the patient is diagnosed to have benign prostatic hypertrophy, he has to undergo some kind of a treatment. So lifestyle modifications, the patient is advised to reduce intake of fluids, especially at night if he is having too much of nocturia, and increase it in the morning, or if when he is going out he should decrease his intake of fluids a little bit. Avoid taking caffeinated drinks and alcohol. Avoid other medications like nasal decongestants or antihistaminics or diuretics if possible. Training the bladder to hold more amount of urine for longer periods. Pelvic floor muscle exercises are important, and most important is to treat constipation. If the patient is walking around and he is not constipated, then his recovery from prostate symptoms is going to be very high. Second aspect after lifestyle modification is the medications. The doctor may prescribe you certain medications which are like alpha blockers, phosphodiesterase 5 inhibitors, 5-alpha reductase inhibitors, and combination of other medications. Now alpha blockers, these medications relax the smooth muscle of the prostate and bladder neck to improve the flow of urine. So the bladder neck opens up and the prostatic urethra also opens up a little bit and urine flows down. There are a lot of different types of medications, and there are pros and cons of using different medications for different kinds of patients. Like there are alfuzosin, tamsulosin, silodosin, terazosin, doxazosin. These are the medications which we commonly use. Depending on individual patient profile, exact medication type will be chosen. These are alpha blockers. Then phosphodiesterase 5 inhibitors like tadalafil, these are used basically for erectile dysfunction. They improve erection in patients who have erectile dysfunction. However, in low doses, these are also shown to improve the flow of urine. So they may be also prescribed to you. Now, the third kind of medications group is 5-alpha reductase inhibitors. These medications act on the dihydroxytestosterone. Now, testosterone is the hormone on which the prostate gland depends on. The growth of the prostate gland is totally dependent on testosterone. So the active molecule of the testosterone is inhibited by this medication. So this causes a little bit reduction in the stromal size of the prostate, and the flow of the gland increases. And combination of any of these above medications can be used depending on the patient profile. Remember, on ultrasonography or on transrectal ultrasound, whatever the size of the prostate is immaterial. Sometimes the prostate gland is enlarged to a huge size, but it's causing minimal obstruction, while in other patients, even a slight increase in size of the prostate may cause a lot of obstruction. This is because it all depends on in which area the prostate gland is increasing more, and it is not necessary that prostate cancer should happen in enlarged gland. In fact, in most of the times, if a patient is having prostate cancer, the gland I have routinely seen to be of quite a smaller size. So the size of the prostate gland is an immaterial thing. Now, lastly, if you are going to require medications for a long time, depending on what your symptoms are, your doctor may advise you to undergo surgery. Now, once prostate cancer is ruled out, The surgery options are very simple, and the surgery is a minimally invasive surgery. There is no external cut at all. There are different types of surgeries by which we can remove the prostate gland, enlarged part of the prostate gland. Remember, we remove only the enlarged part of the prostate gland, not the entire prostate gland. Entire prostate gland is removed only in prostate cancer cases. For benign prostatic hyperplasia, only the part of the prostate that is blocking the tube is removed, and there is a defect that forms in the prostatic fossa, and urine flow improves. So this surgery can be done by ways of transurethral resection of prostate using monopolar cautery or a bipolar current. It can be done by laser method. The lasers can be holmium laser or a KTP laser that can be used, and sometimes only the bladder neck part of the prostate is enlarged, so you can just do a transurethral incision of the prostate. If the prostate gland is very huge, like 150 grams, 200 grams or more, then even an open prostatic surgery can be done. It's done by either Frey's technique or by Miller's technique. So the final question that one may have is that how do you prevent benign prostatic hyperplasia? Till date, there is no mechanism or there is no treatment by which you can prevent benign prostatic hyperplasia. It's an individual case-by-case situation in a male patient. Which patients are going to develop symptoms due to enlargement of prostate and which people are not going to develop is totally genetic and a structural change. There is no prevention for benign prostatic hyperplasia. However, if a patient develops benign prostatic hyperplasia, symptoms of which increased frequency, urgency, or nocturia, or poor stream of urine, then he should seek treatment as early as possible because the complications can be prevented. Treatment of benign prostatic hyperplasia is very simple and it's very streamlined nowadays, and patients should seek early medical treatment and intervention if necessary, and to see a urologist for these symptoms, and they should not just keep on postponing the treatment, or they should not avoid showing themselves to the doctor. Otherwise, the complications of benign prostatic hyperplasia are very difficult to treat. So thank you and stay safe.